Okay, so we've just gone live with Deb. We're going to wait a few more minutes for people to join the call. Let's give it another minute or so before we get started. Um, Maybe in the meantime, Deb, do you want to just tell everyone kind of what you do, where you're from, what got you into community building in the first place, like how you got into this industry? Just some background before we kick it off.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me, Gavin. I'm excited to just share some things that I've learned over the past number of years with others. I've been a community builder online since 2020. Before that, I used to build it in person. We were doing things in person a lot before the pandemic. And I got really into designing communities in 2020 when I launched up my own community and failed at it. And then learned that I had some other skills that were helpful to these leaders who wanted to launch their own communities. And so I initially started and chose a certain platform because of experience that I had. And then I discovered, oh, community is just people. And so we can talk and have community.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've worked with over 100 people globally. I have worked with a lot of people in the UK and Europe, Africa, uh, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Mexico, and of course the US. I'm based in the US, so I'm based in central Pennsylvania, which, if anybody is familiar with Hershey chocolate,
Of course, yeah, definitely.
that is where I live, basically, where that was founded. I don't think they make the chocolate here anymore. They probably make it down in Mexico. So other than that, I would say that most of my work is in strategy and helping people kind of clarify their community concepts, identify their ideal members, and discover how they can launch an online community, why they're going to do it, and why it's important to them.
Okay, amazing. So before we start, just some housekeeping. So obviously this will be recorded. It'll be a Q&A style interview, so almost like a podcast where I'll be asking you questions, you kind of give me your answers. We'll probably get some questions from the audience later on as people join, and we can pick those questions up from the chat. But I've got a few questions already from our users of Swarm. Someone's just joined right now, so just to recap, so as I said before, it's a Q&A session. I'll be asking Deb some questions. If you have any questions yourself, feel free to put them in the chat as we go along. I've got questions from the community already, from other users, and those who can't attend live can watch the recording later on. And hopefully, Deb, you can come into the user community yourself and possibly answer questions there if we get more questions after this recording goes out.
Yeah.
So I think just for those who've just joined, maybe you wanted to quickly give a quick overview, just a one line or a couple of sentences as to what you do in terms of community.
Sure. I'm an online community strategist, and what that means is I help people decide when to launch and grow and how they can grow an online community, developing with their ideal members and exploring the purpose and reasons of why they're building community and what that impact is in the world.
Okay, so the first question we've got from our user community is, what are the most common pitfalls you see when communities are launching or relaunching? And how do you help clients avoid those pitfalls?
Yeah. I might be diverting from some of the things I answered in that thing in the blog that I wrote earlier this week, but I will say the common pitfalls are like having too many options and thinking too far in the future. I really have clients focus on the first 90 days. What is that going to look like for these members? And where are they on the spectrum? Are they in a beginner bucket to whatever this topic is? Are they advanced? And we have to know those kind of things so that when we're inviting those people in the community, they can figure that out. A lot of people don't do that kind of stuff. And they also, I know we all think our communities are awesome. We're all like, everybody's going to want to join. But they don't. And it's not for everyone. So community is really about exclusion, and that's the biggest thing that I see people just trying to invite the whole world into their community. And what happens then is people say, oh, it's cool. They come in once and they never come back.
Okay, so I mean, if you were to advise someone who is starting out or launching in terms of it being too noisy or maybe too many options, what is your advice? Like, how many channels do you suggest? How do they onboard clients in a way that makes them stick?
Yeah, so I suggest when you're thinking about launching a community, clarifying your community concept and understanding what problem you solve first and who you're solving that for. So if your community is for leaders and you're helping them in the beginner stage to become a speaker, become a leader of something, that's a different persona than another person would be that's more advanced, or if that's not a leader that's in some other field. So having that clarity is really important. And then understanding the problem, like maybe the problem is getting speaking for leaders, getting speaking opportunities. So then maybe that's one opportunity that you're going to be able to help them with. That you can say, we're going to help you not only have you build your confidence, but we're also going to help you find speakers. And then when you're to answer your question about like spaces and like an online community design structure, I typically really default to simple and easy and say, maybe three spaces or three places or whatnot, um, but not more than that. I
Mm-hmm.
think some people think, oh, well, they'll talk here and they'll ask questions here, and then this will be another space for something. And what I typically say is if you want engagement, which is what most people want, and if engagement to you means posts and photos and links and videos, then you want to have a main hub and you want to grow that engagement and have people be communicating in one singular place. Um, so there's one place for them to go. They're not confused about, can I ask a question here or what do I do? That's the things that I would suggest is just having one hub place, and then maybe there's a separate space for, resources or something.
Mm.
Yeah.
And what would you call that one hub space?
What would I call it?
Yeah, so if you were to say to a client, have one
Well, I
hub,
just,
one space, like what do you, is it like general communication or like
oh, okay. I would
discussion,
just
or like
say,
what's the
I typically either say start here,
okay.
or I say the hub or community
Yeah.
central or something so they know that this is where everything's happening. But I typically start here is usually a good parameter because people read that and they're like, I guess I should start here. Not everybody does that, but a lot of people would say if I see a start here, I want to go there first.
Okay. And then I'm keen to understand. Sorry, I'm jumping around the questions we had from users, but this is so helpful. Just keen to understand like how many people you would invite in the beginning. Like what's your strategy? Like, do you have a small group to start off with that you expand from, or how do you do
Yes,
that?
I
Yeah.
I think we're in a time period. I know a lot of people talk about scaling. I don't think that community is great to scale because then you lose the personality, you lose the intimacy. So that's why I recommend having a smaller, maybe a 10 to 20 size group of people. And those people have already been vetted. They've committed to something like a 90-day program. And they're coming in there with the knowledge that they are going to participate with the expectation of them participating,
Mm.
um, depending on what that participation looks like. Yeah.
I've heard people say that you should charge up front in the beginning because it makes it more sticky. What is your experience from communities that you've built? Have you seen that it is more sticky if you have upfront rather than a free community? Like, no?
It really depends on the topic and the people. I think that there's some communities that really work well as a free community, and there's other communities that really work well as a paid community. And I really think it's what you're offering, and basically you're talking about bringing people together.
Mm.
And not everybody's going to have time to go on Zoom meetings and things like that. So there might be a community for people to just pick up information. So maybe they're in a $10 a month community or something, just for them to get the little bits and pieces.
Mm.
Sometimes people have those. I don't see those as successful unless you have a really, really large audience. Most of the people I work with do not have an audience at all, or they have a small to medium sized audience. And in that case, I really try to focus on who do you already know. Give me 10 names of people, real people that we can contact, that you can reach out to and have these ideal member interviews or discussions with, and then get these people together and know that who's going to be in that first cohort,
Mm.
um, so that you can learn from them and how they build relationships with each other. because you're not really familiar with it until you see it in action and you see how, oh, okay, so if I have this event and then I introduce Jen to Gavin, well, now they're going to get to connect. And we
Mm.
put them in a breakout room for a minute and they get to talk. Now they get 5 minutes to learn about each other without me being in there saying, Gavin, talk about yourself,
Yeah. Okay. So I guess for them to communicate to each other, you have to have some sort of value transfer, right? I mean, they have to get something out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good people that just love being online and will click and, and post comments. I'm sure of that, but there are so many. I mean, think about how many Facebook groups there are. Think about how many LinkedIn groups there are. Think about how many new platforms come out every year.
Yeah.
And so I think when it's really hard to diversify yourself unless you're very specific about, here's who I work with. I only work with these people that like ice cream cones on Tuesdays instead of Taco Tuesday. And every week we have an ice cream sundae party on Tuesdays instead of a Taco Tuesday. I don't know. Like,
Okay.
just something that brings us all together in
Yeah.
commonality that I can say, yep, I'm all down for a ice cream social. Why would I not?
Okay, so second question we've got from people is about content. So they asked that there's often a gap between content creation and actual member engagement. What strategies have you found most effective in bridging that disconnect? So the content versus engagement, and how you drive engagement from just posting content as a community
Yeah.
builder. Yeah.
I think the beginning steps, the discovery steps lead into this. You kind of know these people as you interview them or you're getting survey feedback from them. And that way that gives you an idea of maybe some content that they would enjoy to start you off with. But I really don't suggest starting with content at all. I suggest starting with communication and connection. And so I suggest, like, if you kick off a new community, have a welcome party and have everybody introduce themselves and get to say some fun things like, here's a fun fact about me, or go in your house and find your favorite stuffed animal if you have one, or your kid's favorite stuffed animal, and bring it and show it to us, like a show and tell kind of a thing. These fun activities are how we connect as humans. And so that initial glue will stick a lot more than if you ask them to post and answer questions in a chat forum. They will probably do that to some extent, but I think the stickiness that we're talking about that we really want really doesn't happen unless you have an in-person or a kind of a virtual experience where you get to really know a person and who they are. Especially with AI now, we're really leery of, well, I don't know who's behind this picture. Is it really that person?
Yeah.
So community is really important in that aspect.
Okay, so you would basically host a live event as a kickoff when you launch your community, have the members come in, break the ice, I guess, and then you would from that hope that they start engaging after that, or would you still kind of start
We'd
prompting
probably
them?
give them some kind of specifics of saying, here's what we're going to do for the next month. We're having like, for example, let's have a 30-day challenge. And the challenge is that we want everybody to start knitting. It's a knitting community. And we want everybody to start knitting. So do one thing that gets you started. Maybe that one thing is going to the store and buying the stuff you need. Maybe that one thing is just starting out, like doing one thing. And then building on that over time. So getting them to do some kind of an action and then bringing that to them. Because what we really want to do, what's really cool is actually when it happens, is when the community actually helps you change your own life, right? It helps you. And that's how I got into community. Is a community was for me, and they helped me change my life to get out of a corporate job and to do other things.
Okay. Do you have any examples of communities that you've helped launch, and the kind of your most successful communities that you've seen, and how you launched those?
Yeah, I don't remember which ones I listed in there, but I don't think I listed any, but I'm being described, I should say. The biggest thing I would say is maybe the one client that I worked with had a really great audience. And he has been in the space that he's in, mindfulness space. He's been in that for many, many years. He has a physical practice location in Los Angeles. So he has some background already. He's written several books, that kind of thing. When I worked with him, he wanted me to help him redesign his community to re-engage some of the free people to get them into these paid spaces. And so we did a 21-day challenge. We got excitement around that challenge and telling them about these other courses that they may or may not have known about, because he has a bunch of things in there. But not everybody goes into those little pockets and says, oh, there's a course I can buy to help me sleep better for $29. Not everybody goes and does that. So it was to help promote that. And what happened was it worked. There's a lot of people that really learned a lot about the programs they have. We learned about people, what time they want to meditate and how they want to meditate and what that looks like for them. And we got a lot of feedback, and it was a really great success. I don't know I don't know the numbers of those things, because that's his business, not mine. But yeah, I would say that was one really great experience from my end that I had with a client.
Okay, so I'm just thinking about how I would launch a community. So, like from what you're saying, I should kind of kick off on a date and have like sort of a challenge or a 14-day thing or a 30-day sort of event that they're working towards something. And then after that, I could push them through the funnel to other things I'm selling, like courses, other communities. Would that be the kind of best way to launch?
But we don't. I don't really like the word funnel.
Okay.
Although I know a lot of people are using it. I'm seeing people backing off of the funnel because I'm seeing that that's not working, because people realize that other people are humans and they don't like to just be sold to, right? So I think the focus is really, for your first 3 to 9 months, is just doing the community, just building that up. Pitching something else to them too soon will make them have that icky feeling of, they're just selling to me. That's what I've seen.
But if you're having a challenge as a Kickstart event, like a 21-day challenge, what do you do with that community afterwards? Like if you do you still have sort of conversations going around like after the challenge?
What do you want to do with the community after the challenge? That's the question. It's really let's say we're having a coaching program. Let's say that challenge is really hard, and people, not everybody did it, for example, but there was a couple really key people, and you wanted to really help them get to the next step. You're like, there are some people in this community that have been showing up every day, and I feel like those people are the greatest people that might be interested in this more intensive program. Maybe it's the course, maybe it's a coaching program, whatever it is. You can pitch that to your list, your email list, and into the community of existing members. But I would first do more of a smaller reach out, especially if it's a higher tier program. The client I mentioned, he has many courses, but his main program is an annual program that lasts a year. He charges $4,000 per person for that. And he has almost 100 people in there at this point. And he's been running it for several years. So, and people renew because they don't get through all of the 12 modules in the year. So they will renew. And he's created the stickiness in there with the coaching he's doing, and then with his course program he's doing. And those combination worked really well for him.
Wow. Okay. Okay, next question we've got is, could you walk us through your process for helping clients identify their ideal community members? What aspects do people often overlook?
Yeah, I think I put in that document the idea framework, and it's pretty much what I would suggest is identifying who's the right person. It's not everybody. It's a specific. It's a single mom with 2 kids, or it's a whoever those people are that you're helping. And then, but what's their problem? So, okay, great, single moms. There's a lot of single mom communities, right? So I'm not a mom. I don't know, but I'm just making an assumption. And so we want to say, well, how is our single mom community different? Okay, well, maybe we take a component and make it fun. So let's say we share our kids' artwork. I don't know. That's a community, like kids and art. I don't know, or something like that. We have like a support group around creativity and how to keep our creativity going and help our kids have creativity, for example. So that would be a unique selling point that I haven't seen, right? That's a new community concept that I haven't really seen, and I don't think is super familiar with people. and it's something fun that people would be actually interested in doing.
Mm.
Those are the key things, I think, keeping it fun and light. People are not going to join this community and tell you their biggest problems or hardest challenges in the
Mm.
first 5 minutes that they join your community. Over time, if you do that stickiness of building that relationship together, then they're going to stay. Now,
Mm.
once we've identified those people, then we have to talk to the real people. We can say moms who like art, but do moms really like art? That's an assumption I made. So now I have to talk to some moms, make sure, are they interested in art? Are there some people out there that are single moms that also are creative? And then let's say I find those people or they're in my universe somewhere, they're in my networking systems, LinkedIn or social media or personal, like in-person communities. And we talk to them and we just say, hey, would you like to be a part of this space? Here's what we think about doing. And then they'll tell you. And what's great about that is that then whatever idea you had, they probably will bring something else to it. And then that's how you customize and you package and then you sell your programs, is by getting them to say, here's what I need help with, and then flipping it around and saying, this community helps you with this, because they've already said it.
Okay, so it's really finding out what their problems are and then building your offering around a solution to their problems, really.
Yeah, maybe a mom is like, I wish I could paint. I used to paint all the time and I don't paint anymore. And I want to be more creative, but I don't have time, or I'm not making it a priority. And this community is going to help me to make sure I put painting back in my life. Even though I'm a single mom with 2 kids,
Mm.
there's a way for me to figure that out, instead of me saying, already making an assumption, oh, I have 2 kids, life is crazy, and there's just no way for me to ever paint until I'm like 60, right?
Yeah.
So that would be like the problem. And then it would be up to the individual if they really want to prioritize, because that's really what life's about, is we do what we want to do.
Mm.
Yeah.
How do you sort of reach out to people who might find value in your community? Like, what's your approach to bringing them in?
Yeah. So a lot of it's starting with people you already know and asking them who they know.
Mm.
Because personal referrals are typically the best way. Everybody, you post on Facebook, where's the best place to get my nails done? Where's the best place to get my car fixed? That's what people want. They want a referral from a person. And so if they don't know you and, somebody says, hey, Gavin's a really great guy, he's starting this cool community, I think you'd be a perfect fit for this program. Would you like to talk to him? I can connect you with him.
Mm.
If they want to do the outreach, if you want to do the outreach, you can ask them some information about the person. And then hopefully they would maybe do an email together post or
Mm.
something like that, where they include 2 emails, your email and their email, and then say, hey, Deb, meet Gavin. Gavin, meet Deb. This is what Gavin does. And he's interested in talking to you about his new community, for example.
Okay, cool. Okay, how do you define the ideal sort of member experience? Like, what are some elements that contribute to making it successful?
Yeah, I think knowing what member experience they want to have.
Mm.
One of the communities that I was in, they had an in-person event and they had a hike up a mountain. And then when we came down from the mountain, there was coconuts there, and we got to like drink out of a real coconut. And then we had a traditional Mexican meal at this restaurant that they had already planned out. So they thought a lot about, okay, here's the experience we want to give to these members, and here's how we're going to lay it out for them. And then it's just going to the day that it happened, and just here's what we're doing. Here's the agenda. I think that's knowing who your people are and knowing that they're going to enjoy this amazing thing. So whatever that is, whether it's a summit, like a virtual summit, and you're going to be like, oh, they know they would love this style format, for example,
Mm.
that would be a way that you could begin to start.
And then another question here is, can you share an example of how you've helped a client transform their community engagement strategy? What were the key changes that made the difference?
One of the communities I worked with was a homemaker community, where they were, it was like a simple living community where they were really focused on making their own like planting their own garden, and some of them had like chicken coops and like being self-sustaining and living simply. And so her community was somewhat active, but the engagement was kind of split into different places. And so we did an ideal member interview with 10 of her members. And the feedback that we got was they wanted to share their own experiences with other members. And so what we did was we had she put together a form to collect information. Then she announced to the community, if you'd like to share your skill, we're going to start skill sharing sessions once a month where we have a community member share their skill, whatever they know, and teach it to us so that we can learn about it. Like there's specific things that they had in their community that some people knew, but not everybody knew.
Okay.
So that really helped them grow their engagement, bring it to one hub. Like I was talking about, we kind of moved everybody into this one space and then announced that initiative along with some other initiatives that really just made a difference with the members. Like we also connected to them and understood, here are the problems you have about time zone. Okay. So we understand you can't always show up at the meeting. It's just not going to work for you. So let's find another way to communicate. Maybe we do a live video chats, so you send a video and I send a video, and maybe that's how we communicate, or voice notes or things like that. I think those are all also ways that get around that time zone issue. When you have a global community where there's a lot of time zones, sometimes you can, and you have a video community, so lots of fun things to do there. So.
Just something I've noticed as well, just from other users of the platform, is that they like to kind of welcome the new members in, like via a DM, that kind of thing. And just wondering if you've seen that work well to get them to engage, because I know it's quite overwhelming for someone new coming into a community of like maybe 100 people to kind of start posting straight away and worried about being judged, that kind of thing, especially on video. So what is your advice to kind of getting people to engage soon after they join? Should you give them time to settle in? Should you do DMs? Like, what's your approach there?
We need to tell them why this place is important. It's like, what's your community concept? Who is this for? What problem are we solving? We want to tell them that in the beginning. And then we want to tell them some community guidelines. And part of those community guidelines are, here's what you can do. Here's what you can't do here. And then there's also, we're a safe space. Here's what we talk about in here. So giving those parameters up front, and I don't typically give them all of it in one shot. I typically recommend kind of like spreading these out in emails or in notifications inside your community of saying, hey, we just want to let you know, here's the community guidelines about blah, blah, blah. So I would start them with that. Onboarding is the biggest part that a lot of people miss, besides the whole having too many options thing. So I think that is really common, that people just say, oh, well, I'll just invite people in and they're going to know what to do. Nobody knows what to do. No matter what it is, no matter how easy you think it is, somebody is going to be like, there's no way I'm like going to this space. So you have to have that kind of conversation with them, whether it's a real conversation or if it's communicated through email or notifications. I would say slow your roll. Don't tell them everything at once. So maybe start with your purpose. And then the next week you start with connect with some members. We're having a member meetup this week. And then you tell them, hey, by the way, there's a community guidelines. We don't tell them all of those things at once, because that is how you overwhelm people. I would say the number 3 thing I see that people do that derails them is that they have too much too soon. They tell everybody all the things and people just can't keep up with that. We have kids and lives and jobs and cars and blah, blah, blah. So I think the best thing to do is just keep it real short and simple, and see who's really interested in engaging and having the time to do that. And then lean into the people who are showing up and stop worrying about the people that are not, because they're just not your people then. That's okay. That's great. Actually, that opens space up for new people that are your people.
That makes sense. Something I see also is kind of, it's around content again. I know content's a big thing. But I see people wanting to put the content into the community before inviting members in. So kind of before they launch, they have all the content there ready to go in their different hubs or spaces.
Mhm.
So just wondering what your advice is. Like, should you launch with no content? Should you have some content? Should you wait for users to post content in your community? What is the best way to launch in terms of content?
Yeah, it depends on the structure.
Hmm.
So, is this a ongoing community? Is this a course that's 12 weeks? Is it a coaching program that's 6 months? Those will have different content parameters, right? That they would have. Either way, what I tell people to start with in the very beginning, let's say you have a course. Well, the first 2 weeks, I suggest not to even go into course content. I suggest to focus on connection and community. So, you would say you have a welcome event or you have a member meetup or things like that, and you give them in the content, that's all it is. It's the guidelines, it's the purpose. Like, I usually tell clients that they only really need 2 to 3 posts. The first post is gonna be, "Here's who we are, here's what we do." The other post is gonna be, "Here's some community guidelines," and then maybe another post is gonna be, "Here's some things that we'd like you to additional resources that we'd like you to look at." And maybe you have a
Okay.
link to some resources if you wanna provide some content, but I really suggest not doing so much content at the beginning. Now, there are people, if they're having an ongoing membership, that want to have ongoing content in there, and I think that takes a time, but once you build it up, then you would have content, but in the very beginning, you really don't have that because the members just started with you,
Mm.
and so I think that content is just very much there's we already have figured out that the internet since the internet happened, we have too much of everything, right? And, so we need to pause, right?
Yeah.
And figure out it's really more about identifying what I need, what Dev needs in my life,
Mm.
right? And so that's my task is to figure out how to navigate through life, and community is the people who support me and help me with that, because without them, I couldn't do it.
Mm. Okay. I'm sure there'll be more questions around content.
I know,
Um,
I always default back to engagement and participation and community and connection,
yeah.
but, um, I know people wanna say, "Well, what about my course?"
Mm.
Great, you have a course, but typically I'll just add on there. Typically, I see people that have a course, for example, they put all of it in, like, 1 course when that could have been 4 courses.
Mm.
And so I think the thing that I also see is that people jam all that information in when people are just not ready for it. They're like, "I just started learning about this topic. I just learned about this term yesterday, and I have no idea about it, and I don't have time to read your entire manuscript or book in the next week." Like,
Yeah.
that's just not gonna happen for me. So, I think that's what you gotta have the reality of the times we're living in and that people are
Mm.
very busy and they want direction and
Mm.
direct communication. Just tell me where it is. Just tell me what to do. Just tell me how, make it easy because that's
Yeah.
what people are looking for. They're looking for fun and easy things to do because their life is hard enough.
Mm. Just in terms of cohort-based communities versus the standard communities, what have you seen is most successful in your experience? 'Cause in my mind, I think cohort is probably easier to do because you can have that kickoff meeting. You can make it last, let's say, 3 months. You'll pay for 3 months up front. Then you have another session 3 months later or another kickoff. Is that easier to do, or would you say the kind of more traditional way is a better way to go?
So if you're an established brand or person, for example, like if you've been building a following over 10 or 20 years and you've had, you want to have like what's that app? I can't think of that app. Or YouTube, there's YouTube communities now where people can pay
Mm.
to get extra content from you. That's like an influencer model versus a community model, which is and they use the word community, which kinda sucks because I don't feel like that's a community. But what I'll say is if you have a lot of people and
Mm.
you want to do a community and people have told you they want to be in community, then go for community. But other than that, yeah, you should start with a program that has specifics, beginning date, end date. What is my expectation? What is the member's expectation? How is this gonna flow? How are they gonna get these benefits in this amount of time? Um, a and then give it to them, and then
Mhm.
see how it because it always changes. Like, if you do a 3-month program, then at the end of the 3 months, you can say, "Alright, I'm pausing. If you're still interested, let me know, and I'll be circling back to everybody that's still
Mm.
interested and wants to keep going." And then that gives you time to say, what do I want to do now?
Mm.
How was this for me? Because I think a lot of community builders just go into one thing and they go into another thing and they go another and they don't pause. And so we need some pausing and reflection time. So I think it is easier for people to put something on their calendar when they have a date and, book the virtual calls and things like that versus something that's ongoing.
Mm.
I see a lot of members. Retention is a lot more important than getting new people, by the way. So we really want to keep the people that we have. We don't want to try to get new people all the time. And so I think that's another thing that a lot of people they think, oh, I need more members. No, you have a group of members. Let's say you have a really good, solid group that you've developed over 6 months or a year. Focus on those people and see what they want and then what they can bring to your community, rather than going outside. Because what will happen is if they don't feel like they're being served, they'll leave. And if it's a reoccurring subscription, like a monthly subscription, those are very easy to cancel.
There is actually one user we have that's done a really good model. So that's also cohort based, but they've got 3 different cohorts running simultaneously.
Yeah.
It's a fitness community. So there's one cohort which is entry level, novice, and then those that pass move up to the next cohort. So they have to work towards passing that sort of 3-month community challenge to get to the next one, and then those ones move up. So it's kind of a ladder almost, which is, so it's cohort based, but it keeps them engaged and keeps them kind of active and kind of wanting to move up a level. So I can see where that could work well as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that a lot with my clients. For example, I have a client who was a coach, and she trained coaches, and she had a nutrition book, and then she was a coach, and then she was training coaches, and then those coaches got certifications. And so that's a lot of different people that she could serve in that audience. She has the people who are down to the people that are looking at recipes on her website, all the way over to the people who have been coaching clients based on her certification. So she's serving a lot of different markets, but she didn't start there.
Okay, I think we've covered all the questions now, so we can open up to the audience. If anyone wants to ask any questions, either put it in the chat or you can come off mute to ask Deb a question. So open it up to the audience. Let's see if we have anything in chat, or if you guys want to come off mute.
Yeah, I do see there is a one in the chat from Jasmine.
Okay.
So I can certainly address that. Jasmine, did you want to read yours? You can just say no if you don't.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Thanks for allowing me to come in a bit late here. Just thoughts, Deb, on an open community where people are just sort of coming in and out, like a monthly subscription, that type of membership, versus one where it opens, there's sort of an end date and it closes, and there's only so many openings per year. What your thoughts are on that?
Yeah, I'm going to say it really depends. I don't really recommend that unless you're in the more advanced bucket of community building, unless you've been doing it for a while. That's how I started to try it. And I followed the model of people who had a bigger audience than I did. They had a better niche and they had more clarity on their stuff than I did at the time. So I think what I learned from that was, you can do some of these things, but it really depends on what your preference is. Do you want to be launching twice a year? Do you want to be having to do that over and over again? That's why memberships are challenging, because they're really, if you're trying to gain new members, you're constantly in that cycle. Whereas if you're just focusing on the members and they're in there and it's up to them how long they stay. So to answer you, it depends, but I would say most people who are starting out, I would suggest that they have, one time that they're opening and then it's open, and then they can decide when to close it, or, if something happens that they no longer want to host a community. But other than that, if they're going to keep it open, then they can decide. You can always change it. You can say, well, we were going to open and close, but now we're going to do this. You can always change your mind.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. Thank you.
You bet. Great question.
Were there any other questions? Yeah, Jen, go for it.
Okay, so this is kind of a follow-up on Jasmine's question. Oh wait, it totally just left my mind. Okay, so I am actually wanting to start this video community. I support family caregivers of people with chronic illness. So this community is going to be used as, I hate the word, as the container to invite people into from keynotes, workshop facilitations that I do for organizations, nonprofits, foundations. So the larger organizations bring me in, I give the initial program or course, you would say, and then I want to continue the relationship with people in the audience. And because we will be very vulnerable and share our caregiving challenges and want to connect, it most likely would be a paid membership, like once a month, just to have that safeguard for the people who are within the community. So then it sounds like that model would be an always open sort of situation then, based on like what Jasmine's question was, versus like, I won't be launching twice a year and inviting people in. It would be, I go do a workshop in April and invite those people in to come try the membership for 14 days or a month or whatever, and then they can start paying the subscription. There wasn't a question in there, but have you seen anything like that? It's more of like I guess more of like an online support group
Yeah.
than anything else.
I had a client, one of my first clients, I think she was one of my first clients. She had a caregiving community, and grieving. It was a grieving community, and you know, it depends on the financial structure. Hers was covered by the company that she worked for, so they weren't actually charging people to come in the door. You know, that price was covered by this company, and then this was like a resource for the caregivers that worked for the company. So that's a little bit different of a pricing structure thing. But other than that, you know, that community was really powerful and really important to those people. And it gave them a space to know where it's okay to grieve, or communicate their challenges with their patients without violating the stuff.
Thank you. Like I said, there wasn't really I thought I had formulated a question and then I hadn't, but it's nice to hear that someone had done something like that and it tended to work for them.
Yeah, she had an ongoing program that she would do and run over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So people could just join in when it started. I also have seen that with like onboarding. If you have people come in, maybe you do a once a month welcome party so that everybody who's joined this month can do that. But I think the structure and the support are important things. The key thing is you got to know the members to know what's beneficial to them and how is this really going to be something accessible to them. How can they do a video? Are they doing it in their car, and what does that look like, or whatever? You know what I'm saying?
You can do it in your car, but don't be driving. Oh.
Right. Give them some tips, because who knows? They might be trying to be like, hey, I'm driving today and I'm just really wanting to talk about this thing. Right. Yeah. Like logistics are also a thing I think a lot of people don't think about, I should say, because, for example, that person is probably overwhelmed and could also be doing caregiving at home. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people are doing both, like their job is caregiving and then they're caregiving at home. Mm-hmm. And so we have to figure out, okay, where is the space? How can we make a space for these people so that they can get some value out of it? Mm-hmm. Although they're so busy and they're so drained or tired or whatnot.
That's why Swarm actually appealed so much to me. One, because when I was in the hospital with my daughter for like a month at a time, I know I wish that there had been something other than a Facebook community where you post and don't have human connection, because that's something that caregivers really crave. And so when I saw the technology with Swarm, people being able to come in and asynchronistically post a video, and then others coming to acknowledge them and see and hear them, and then me being able to come in and offer support and life experience that way. I really appreciate the layout. I'm just scared to get started. So I just need to take the first step with posting. And so this really helps, thank you, by saying no, like you don't need tons of content. You don't need you need 3 posts to get people going. And yes, it would be very important to really focus on the onboarding and sharing how much of a safe space this is. And then also outlining, this isn't really for the caregiver who wants to be in a victim mindset. This is a caregiver who wants to really lean on their resilience and others in connection to enjoy the life that they're living, even with life circumstances being difficult. So I think writing a script for that and like doing an intro video and then having another video with onboarding as well as like text that they could read if they'd like that, is a great place to start. And it makes me less scared to start. So thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a great things that you've shared there. And I was going to just add on to say, have it be fun for these people because they've got such challenging jobs. So where is the fun? Maybe they're sharing their favorite shirt. I don't know. Maybe they're sharing something that they can connect with us to. That helps us know them better. Because then, like you said, and what I usually typically say is people want to be seen and heard and valued. And they don't get that in social media. We get the opposite. And so this is what the time that people are really looking for, that little hub of not a whole lot of people, but people that are my people. And wherever that is, I want to go there. And they just have to find you and you have to find them. That's the only challenge, which is the big challenge.
The only challenge? Okay. All right.
It's not the only challenge. You know what I mean?
I do know. Thank you.
Yeah. Great question.
Cool. Any other questions before we end off? Yeah, go ahead.
One more question if there's time. I've been really intrigued. So I'm a certified professional coach. I'm launching a membership called the Thrive Now Club, which is about helping heart-centered high achievers who are struggling with using their personal development tools and resources, re-engage with them and actually use them for their own progress instead of just sitting in a closet. And so part of that, obviously building the community is really important, having there be trust and relationship. And I've heard another person offer office hours. So a chance for people to, I'm offering a 90-minute group session, but for those who maybe don't feel comfortable in a group session, having a chance to do office hours. But I want to make it doable for me because the price is not humongous, but also to provide some accessibility to me. I'm just not sure the how of that or the mechanics, maybe some ideas, or if you've seen something that's really worked, that would be fantastic. Or even tools or software that has worked. I'd be really intrigued by that.
Yeah. I think it could be if you know that your members maybe have a hard time taking action, a great way to give them some accountability is to offer them a co-working space where this is the time when you do the thing. So if you're telling me you have no time to do the thing, all right, this is the hour. We're going to put it on the calendar, and that hour we're doing that, whatever that is. If that's more of a need. If it's more connection and kind of experiences kind of a thing, then maybe you host more social events like, a happy hour kind of a thing, or a, Taco Tuesday or ice cream social Friday. You can figure out whatever makes sense for your community, but having more social stuff. I think it really depends on the focus of your community, but ultimately, as long as you have a way to connect them to each other, and they can recognize the value that each of them have, that's key.
Just to answer from my perspective, Jasmine, so I've actually got my own one-on-one space. Sorry, it's a one-on-one space for kind of just for people to chat to me. So it's like office hours, but it's always on. So I promote it as it's always on office hours. I'm always available. And when people join the space, they're into a one-on-one conversation, a private DM with me, and they can send me a video and I can send a video back. So they're still getting that personal connection asynchronously, and it's one-on-one, and there's no group, it's all private. So I've seen that actually works really well. If they've got a question, and I can always say, like, I'm a coach in your pocket, or I'm available whenever you need me, because I'll get back to you within 24 hours on video. But just bear in mind, you get access to me for a lower membership fee, but at any time, so that's actually worked really well for other users as well, who have seen our coaches who have sort of, even on the website, to promote this as a sort of value add product, for their clients.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. Yeah, I like that. Those both
Yeah.
perspectives. Thank you.
I also had a booking link on my community when I was running my community. I had a little link that had my booking calendar on it, so that if anybody just wanted to talk with me, they could go to the scheduler and book time with me. I think it depends on you, also your level of your schedule, right? How available do you want to be? And so, maybe that's going to be limited, maybe not. Yeah, I would those are the things that I would think about, because I see community builders making lots of work for themselves, which is unnecessary. And I've done it. A lot of people do it. But yeah, I think just thinking about that intentionally and deciding, okay, here's the direction I want to go. Even if you don't have something official, and then just mentioning, send me a direct message, or communicate with me this way, because I'd love to hear from you. Also, in the beginning with onboarding, I do recommend doing like individual communication, whether it's a video or a message.
That's good. Thank you.
Cool. So just to end off, Deb, do you want to tell people where they can find you? I know you mentioned LinkedIn. You're also obviously in the Hive. So if people want to reach out to you there, they can ask you questions. But I'm not sure if you're taking on new clients for consulting, but feel free to share your website or where they can find you.
Yeah, if you go to findcalmhere.com, FINDCALMHERE.com, you're going to see a landing page for my new book, and you get a free workbook. So I do want to just tell you that if you're looking for some resources that are free, LinkedIn is the best place. That's more where I spend most of my time. So I'm in Swarm. So if you're already there, yeah, just send me a message there. Yeah, LinkedIn would be my primary social. I have a YouTube channel, but I'm not as excited about video as you are.
Fair enough. Cool. Thank you so much for joining us today, Deb, and for everyone who joined us live. Obviously, this will be recorded. It has been recorded. So if you want to comment to the recording when you see it in the Hive, you can, and hopefully Deb will answer any other questions you have. But yeah, thanks for joining us today. Cheers, guys.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.